Hey guys, it's Jesse from Project FDL. Now I know you guys don't see me on camera very often, which means that this video is probably pretty exciting, and it is. But first, I want to take a minute to kind of recap Project FDL as a whole and talk about what we've done for the past few years that we've been at it, because a lot of things have gone on, and a lot of things are going to continue to go on. So let's take a trip in the way back machine to about 3.5 years ago. My wife Jackie, who, if you guys don't know, is the more attractive side of Project FDL, got me a 3D printer for Christmas. The first thing that 3D printer printed was this. This monstrosity is the FDL-1. So the FDL-1 was one of the early, if not first, fully 3D printed foam dart blasters. This one in particular was, it shot these mega darts. And it's a revolver-style, brushless Arduino controlled blaster. It actually originated as a turret mount, as it was designed basically for cubicle warfare. And but I eventually wanted it to be handheld, something that you could kind of take into battle or run around the office with or whatever. So the FDL-1 was really cool, but realistically not very battle-worthy. It's heavy, it's clunky. It was a little finicky sometimes, so I wanted something better. So I set out to design the FDL-2, which is this. So the FDL-2 was the effort to make a very battle-worthy, hard-hitting blaster. It was something that you could pick up and carry around like it was meant to be picked up and taken into battle. The FDL-2 was really, really cool, and it did really well. Well enough that this whole thing had to basically become a business. And that is when Project FDL was created. So Project FDL is the company name for everything that we do, the whole blaster line, accessories, all that good stuff. So roughly a year or so after the FDL-2 came out, my wife Jackie came on board. She started helping with customers and logistics. And she really opened up this notion of very custom blasters. So all of the glitter blasters that you see, and this one that has the hydro graphics on it and stuff, that was all thanks to Jackie. And once that all became a thing, this whole thing really lit up. So like I said, the FDL-2 was really good, but I wanted better, right? I wanted it to hit harder. I wanted the rate of fire to be higher. So I switched out what was the original pusher mechanism in the FDL-2 from a stepper motor to a DC gear motor. So a stepper motor is kind of heavy, it's kind of slow, it's a little finicky. The DC gear motor brought what would be called the FDL-2 Plus up to 13 darts a second from 8 darts a second of the original FDL-2. And that was really cool, and the DC gear motor is lighter, and it made everything easier to carry around. So roughly 6 months or so after the FDL-2 Plus, the FDL-2X came out. Now I showed you this as an FDL-2 before, but this is actually the FDL-2X. So the FDL-2X replaces what the knobs did on the side. So the knobs were originally speed, rate of fire, and your burst settings. The FDL-2X puts that all onto an OLED screen on the back of the blaster. And that is where I really wanted the FDL-2 to be, a cool UI and a ton of control, and you can tweak all these different settings and stuff. And that was really cool. The one problem with the FDL-2 is this is an engineer's product. This is about the inside of the blaster. This is about all of the bells and whistles talking to each other and everything communicating and everything working really, really well. It was not designed to look nice. It was not designed to necessarily feel nice. We've brought it there. The hydrographics and everything have made these things look really cool. So if you're saying that these are ugly, we can agree to disagree. Because I think the hydrographics and different colors and filaments and everything are really cool. But a lot of feedback is that the aesthetics are not super good. It's not super ergonomic. There's a number of things that people really wanted. And I wanted something better too. I wanted to make sure that everybody really enjoyed the FDL line. Because they're not cheap blasters. When you invest in one, you're really investing in a lot of blaster. So I wanted one more shot at a dart blaster. And that's why we're here today. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to the FDL-3. Now, I want to go directly to like an overhead view and put the FDL-3 up next to the FDL-2. A lot of the development that went into the FDL-3 are like direct improvements over the FDL-2, so it's really important to get the two next to each other. Before we look real close at that, keep in mind what I just showed you is still a prototype. There are things in progress on here. The print quality may not be the best. A lot of it's, very prototypey prints. I'm just getting shapes in place and stuff. But let's go to the overhead. Okay, so here we go. We got the two next to each other. Let's tackle the obvious first. The FDL-3, because this distance is a little longer here, is about an inch or two longer than the FDL-2. So at the heart of it, the FDL-3 is just an FDL-2X reshell. Most of the major components are the same, the flywheel motors are the same, the pusher motor is the same, the speed controllers are the same. We are also using the same OLED display. If you look, using that same display as the 2X. The controls are very similar, but I am going to spruce those up like I said, and there's going to be some differences there. The intention here originally was to make a cheaper FDL-2. But realistically, from like a Project FDL standpoint, it makes more sense to use most of the same components on the FDL-3 as we used on the FDL-2. Like, it makes our logistics in-house easier. Also, a lot of the feedback was, cool, you can make a cheaper one, but I don't want you to make a cheaper one if you're going to have less performance or fewer features, which I very much agree with. The FDL line is a line of quality, a line of, build integrity and quality, and the print is all really good, and there's a ton of features, and I wanted to maintain that. That also keeps it as, what it's intended to be, a true hobby grade blaster. So we're not stepping down into Toyland, we're actually going up. So major changes. We will go kind of around both blasters and tackle each one at a time. Biggest one, flywheels. The flywheels have been flipped from horizontal to vertical flywheels. This allows for a sleeker design overall. The FDL-3 is probably an inch skinnier than the FDL-2, which will ultimately make this thing holsterable and just, easier to kind of carry around. The flywheel cage and the flywheels have been completely redesigned. So the cage is different. The flywheels have been made into more of a full envelopment system. So if you picture the flywheels with a concavity, make a perfect circle around the dart. Like, that's the ideal setup. The wheels on the FDL-2 are spread apart a little bit. The wheels on the FDL-3 are almost touching each other. There are actually times that you can hear the flywheels nicking against each other. They're so close. So that creates a more perfect circle. That circle has been tightened in just a little bit to get a better grip on the dart. That means using the same motors, same speed controllers, and everything, you're actually getting a little bit more performance out of the 3. So like we are with AccuFakes or AccuStrikes, we're consistently hitting 170. That's a step up of about 10 to 15 FPS. So similar performance, slightly better out of the 3. Next, the pusher motor. So the pusher motor on the FDL-2 is up here. That is basically what creates this hump on the top that a lot of people were not fond of. So that pusher motor has now been flipped underneath. It sits right here, and the entire pusher mechanism is now upside down from what it was from the FDL-2. That means we can get rid of some of the top. I mean, it's still relatively tall from the handle. That's similar, but that has been maintained straightforward, and it gives you this nice long single rail across the top. That does create a little bit of a longer distance from your handle to your magwell. And I know immediately people aren't going to be super into that, but things have to go somewhere, and this isn't like a brushed blaster where you have a very minimal amount of components. Like, there is a lot of things that need to be put places. So again, like the pusher motor's up here, but so are the electronics and wires and speed controllers, and everything is up here on the 2. That has been spread out across the entire top and, throughout the blaster on the 3. All right, next major thing, the handle. On the FDL-2, the handle holds the battery, so the battery actually sits inside the handle. That works really well. It opens up a lot of room, in the rest of the blaster, but the handle then becomes basically a giant box, and there's not a lot of room for like ergonomics and contours and like nice things on the handle. So on the FDL-3, the battery now has moved from the handle up into this compartment right here. So there is one screw here and there's an opposing screw on the opposite side. You remove those, that cap comes off, the battery sits there. It uses the same battery as the FDL2, so that's like the 1500 milliamp hour Turnigy Nanotechs. There's also a little extra room in here, so you should be able to fit a slightly bigger battery, obviously a slightly smaller battery, and you don't run into the issues where the lead from the battery doesn't reach here. The lead from the battery here goes up here, and it doesn't matter how long it is. So the handle itself has been completely redesigned, and so it is slimmed down. It feels really nice on your hand, and we have a true, clicky click trigger. So you have a full trigger, and inside of here you have a typical Omron switch that creates that click. So you get that really nice tactile feedback that a lot of people have really asked for. The handle has, some finger grips in here, and the contours and stuff have been completely reworked. There is a sling point down in the bottom corner that comes with the blaster out of the box. It is super comfortable. Like, I took a lot of time designing this handle compared to the rest of the blaster, and it came out really, really comfy. You're gonna have to really believe me there. Like, it feels really good, like you're not even holding the blaster. Okay, last major component that has changed is the electronics. So like I mentioned before, the electronics in the FDL2 sit up here in the electronics compartment. Down here, the electronics have basically been shrunk down and they all fit inside of here. Again, same OLED screen, similar controls, but there is something that is sticking out like a sore thumb in the back of this blaster, and that is these buttons. So these buttons are basically my compromise between what was the FDL2 Plus and the FDL2X. If you remember, the Plus has knobs on the side, which give you this really nice tactile feedback from the blaster, and you can tell what your speed is set at and everything just by looking at the knobs. And that's cool, but then we moved up to the X and the knobs came off the side and onto the screen. So you get pretty much more control out of the X, but unless you are like really practiced at using the X, which there are a lot of people that are, it becomes slightly clunky. So if you're wanting to switch settings real quick on the field, it is actually a little easier on the 2 Plus, and that's why the 2 Plus still exists, because people really like that. On the 2X, there are 3 presets, so you can set like your first preset for single fire, second preset for double fire, and so on. On the FDL3, these buttons become quick access buttons. So like I said, this is the compromise between the two. You don't have knobs on the side, but you have these quick access buttons. So if we look, startup sound is a little different. If we switch to burst, and I click through these, there's a slight delay and hold to kind of filter out accidental hits, but you can switch through your presets on the fly very easily and very quickly. It's really cool. The intention going forward is to make those basically configurable buttons, so maybe you don't want to use them as presets, you want to use them as like, this is single fire, double fire, and full auto. Sort of to provide you with that same amount of control that you like on the 2X, where things are kind of configurable, and you can set them up the way that you want. So again, maybe you don't want to switch through presets, you want to switch through speed or burst or rate of fire or whatever. That's the intention there. Right now they are set up as just presets. The other thing with that, if you flip this over, there are the same buttons on the opposite side. These buttons are linked, so the ones on the left side are the same as the right side. You don't get 6 buttons, you get 3 buttons that are identical on either side. That makes the blaster completely ambidextrous. So there is no like, I am left-handed and it feels kind of clunky, I'm right-handed, it feels kind of clunky. The blaster is almost 100% symmetrical, and it is 100% ambidextrous. A lot of major blaster companies have different halves on either side of their blaster. That peeves me, that peeves a lot of other people. That was really important in this design. Okay, so I'm going to move the 2 out of the way. And we're going to talk about some of the other little things. So the power switch, rather than being underneath here, now sits up here. It is a smaller power switch. The entire blaster actually runs off of a main power MOSFET. It's not really important if you don't know what that means. What it does mean is the power switch can get smaller. I actually, if you guys have seen this is the FDL-Z. This was a test for that. The power switch on the Z is this little tiny switch right here. That ended up working out pretty well. And we have moved over to this. We don't need such a tiny switch. I like this one. This is the same ones that we use for the LEDs on the 2X. And it works out really well. Again, we have the single rail and flat top across the whole blaster. That was requested a lot, and I would really like to have that too, so that you could put your optics or, camera mounts or whatever you want on there. There is the potential to have rails just about everywhere on this thing. You could have them here, right here. So this is actually my plan for the ammo counter. We've been getting a lot of orders for ammo counters to put on FDLs, so I really want like a really good solution for that here. That said, I may actually pull the ammo counter out of the control, and I have already been talking to Nathaniel from Ammo Counter, and we're already hashing out like a really good integrated way of mounting an ammo counter to the side or the top of your blaster, and that's going to be really cool. Okay, the front grip. I know you look at this and it seems a little boxy, because it is. This is basically a prototype grip. It does come off. There are 2 screws that hold it into place. The intention is there to be at least 3 different grips available at launch. So this one I like to call the hip shooter, because you kind of hold it like that and you shoot it from your hip. I also want to make a rifleman, so something that sticks out a little flatter this way and you actually hold underneath the blaster like you would a rifle. The third one I'm going to call the mag gripper. So it's just a little piece that would sit right here and would allow you to comfortably hold the front of your mag the same way that you do on an FDL-2. Okay, like we mentioned before too, this distance is a little longer on an FDL-3. And I know a lot of the feedback was, well, we want to be able to hit the mag release from our trigger hand. And that's cool. I already have that in works. I'm working on a kind of a dual release system, so it will maintain the front mag release, and you'll also have a paddle at the back that you can hit with your trigger hand. That'll be offered as an option going forward. It may or may not be available for the pre-orders, but I'm hoping that it'll be available at launch time. In continuing with the Magwell and the mag release, the entire Magwell has actually been opened up. Boop. So now even your tightest mags on the FDL-2 will fit properly in an FDL-3. Your looser mags will just drop right out of the Magwell, so you can hit that release and it's immediately out. Same thing if you get this option back here and you hit the paddle, you drop it out, put your next mag in. That'll be a cool feature. So last but not least, let's talk about aesthetics. So the overall profile and everything of the FDL-3 really sets the blaster up for better aesthetics right off the bat. I have gone through the effort of putting some details on here, like the FDL-3 name is on the front. I've done some kind of greebling here, and like these little recessed portions and stuff. I'm going for simple, like I don't want to overdo all the details, but I do want to maintain the kind of eye-catching thing that comes from having little details on the blaster. So I'm really happy about it. I think it looks really good, and I think it's going to function really, really well. In terms of customizable options, you'll have the same thing on the FDL-3 that you have on the FDL-2. So you'll have this panel on the side that you could potentially have a multicolor print on. That would probably have to flatten out, but you could put text or logo or whatever. The same would be available right here if you don't have rails. And then, as usual, you can get it in whatever color you want, whatever, different filament, could be translucent, glitter, whatever. I know Jackie's is going to be really cool because she always does like glitter and hydro dipping and everything. And you can see we've already started printing some of Aiden's prints. So he does like a glow in the dark white and pink. That's his thing. Awesome. So we've had a good look at the FDL-3. It's pretty cool, huh? One more thing that I wanted to mention that I will be working on in the future too is extended muzzle pieces, as well as an extension for the front that will give you, a longer rail up top, a little more room underneath, and maybe a rail underneath as well. So that is coming down the road. So now, let's talk about pre-orders and how to get an FDL-3 in your hands. Because I know that we've been getting messages from people that are like, man, I want one of the first FDL-3s, like I need it now, I don't even care what it is, and that's awesome. We got you covered, guys. So by this point in time, we have already started listing FDL-3 pre-orders on the website. So go to projectfdl.com and there is a shop button up at the top. Go check that out. I don't want to say a price out loud right now. I've said this in the past. If I say a price and then I change it, like it looks bad on us. So just go to the shop, check it out there. It's going to be roughly the same price as a 2X, if not just a little bit more. There's a lot more going into this blaster than on the 2. So what we did with the FDL2 was we took roughly 10 pre-orders. We got all those pre-orders built, make sure that they were good, shut down the shop for just a little bit until everything was out the door and good to go. And then we opened the shop up for like the official launch. We will be doing the same thing with the FDL3. This time around we'll take about 20 pre-orders, and time frame is roughly 6 to 8 weeks on those. So that's 6 to 8 weeks they start shipping. That gives me, a week or two to really finish up and polish a couple things on the design, get stuff tested. Like we're gonna print one for my son Aiden and a couple like real close local friends, and we're just gonna beat the crap out of the thing and make sure that everything is good, nothing breaks, and everything functions exactly the way that I'm intending it. So something to keep in mind, pre-order does, like I said, mean that there are some things still kind of in progress on the design. What I can guarantee you is what you guys have seen already. So the functionality that I've shown and the aesthetic that I've shown, that stuff is all guaranteed in the pre-order. My intention is to put more into it before you get it. So I have code that I want to spruce up still. I have a couple little design tweaks, some kind of wiring stuff to figure out inside, how to do that nice and cleanly. There's a couple little things left. So if you are weary of being like an early adopter of something, I would wait a couple months until like the official launch or whatever. If you want to be one of the first FDL3 owners, like there's going to be serial numbers on there, and it's going to be cool to have like a low serial number and whatnot. Go to the shop on projectfdl.com and smash that buy button. I guarantee you won't regret it. Okay, so one last major piece of business to cover. So over the years, Project FDL has gone from the FDL1 as kind of a project type thing, it was just like a tinkering sort of thing, to becoming like a legitimate business. We are now officially Project FDL LLC, like we are even legally a business at this point. So roughly 2 weeks before End War, I actually quit my day job to do Project FDL full time. There were some things going on in the company that I was working at that like I was on my way out anyway, and I really wanted to give Project FDL like the bump and the boost that it needs to become what it needs to be as a legitimate company. That said, the FDL3 is not going to be open source like the FDL2 is. So I know like 15% of you guys are immediately like, oh, he's not sharing everything, I'm going to shut the video off right now. Hear me out for a second. There comes a point in the process of creating a business where like providing all of the details about your product to everybody that is buying your product and to competitors and to just everybody around the world stops making sense. I don't want to not share things, but like since I'm doing this full time, these are literally groceries for my kids. This is like my mortgage payment. This is all of the things that I'm paying for in life right here. So it's really important for us now as a legitimate business to protect our intellectual property and to have the product that we make come from our doors, because it's the best that it can be made if it's made here at Project FDL. On top of that, like it takes a long time to support open source stuff. I can post things all day and I can share stuff, but then when people start to build things, they ask questions and things break that like are that person's fault and not our fault, and it's like it becomes really complicated and time consuming. I really want to focus all of our attention into just building the best product that we can bring you guys. On top of that, I have seen some of my fellow designers have issues recently with people taking their open source designs and like really abusing the open source thing and like changing it just enough so that people can call it their own, or like taking the design and printing it and selling it when they didn't have permission to do so and things like that. And like, I'm not cool with that. I don't like when people abuse nice things, and I want to protect the FDL-3 from that, and I want to protect Project FDL from that, so that nothing crazy and out of the ordinary happens and suddenly I can't feed my kids. Like, we have to start taking this seriously and as a business, and like that, there's a lot of factors that go into this. That all being said, I want to take the opposite approach with the FDL-2. I know people have done remixes of the FDL-2, and they're really cool, but I feel like I'm probably restricting that a little bit by not releasing CAD files and some of the other info about it. So you will start seeing CAD files being released for the FDL-2. You'll start seeing other like electrical schematics and just more information about it. Like, go to Thingiverse, it's probably already there. I really want you guys to take it and like make it better, make it cool, make it your own, do all these things with it. Like, I keep hearing people say like, I'm surprised there's not more remixes of the FDL-2. The ones that are out there are really cool. Like Radio Silence 187, he's one of our customers. He has done 2 complete remixes of the FDL-2. I actually took a lot of inspiration of one of his for the FDL-3. He took the pusher motor the same way and he flipped it upside down. And that was super cool. That was like one of my original plan Bs for the FDL-2, and he did it and it worked, and that's awesome. That's what open source is about. So yeah, take the FDL-2, do whatever you guys want with it, because it is a really, really cool machine, and like a lot of people have them and they really like it. So again, I don't feel like I need to say sorry about not open sourcing the 3, but sorry. But as a concession, the FDL-2 will become fully open and it can live on in all of its remixes and all of these things. Something to note, the FDL-2 will still remain a non-commercial open source project though. So like Project FDL is the only one that should really be selling them. If you guys make something that's really cool and like you change something that makes the project better, let me know. Like, I'm totally cool with bringing stuff into the official build. And if it's something that you would love to see printed and like provided to all of the FDL-2 customers, let us know too. I would love to do something that's kind of like a consignment thing where like you guys make something cool and we'll print it for people and then we'll kick back to you. I mean, that's kind of how the open source world sort of works anyway. So yeah, anything that you guys make, let us know. Like, we like to share and we like to, get it to other people, and people get really excited about it. So, cool. Cool, so that's about all I have for now. I am super excited about the FDL-3. Like, I've taken it out and it feels good and it looks good and everything is right where I want it to be. And that's great. I want to take a second to thank all of you guys watching, and everybody who owns an FDL-3, and everybody who's given us feedback, and anybody who's just given us kind words and said, hey, what you guys are doing is really cool. Thank you guys, because you really make Project FDL what it is. We execute on it, but you really bring it to life, and we love you guys for that, and thank you so much. And thank you for watching. We will see you guys soon. Make on, and take care.